Well, different than normal because of the Veterans Day, which is a special day in this town especially, and a special day for me because my father was a U.S. Army for over 20-some years. We practiced this morning rather than this afternoon so that they can have the afternoon off and hopefully get them a little bit fresher for the game coming up because Boise State is an excellent football team. They're ranked in the top 20 in total offense, ranked in the top 10 in scoring offense. They gain over 520-some yards a game on average and almost 38 points a game on average. So they're an awful good football team.
Is that fun for you as a defensive-minded coach to go against that challenge of a Boise State offense?
I wouldn't say it's fun. It makes you think, and you try to develop a scheme that will give your guys a chance to compete and execute. I mean, that's one of the fun things of coaching is the strategy of it. But when you're trying to win games, it's kind of concerning too.
Rocky, how different is their offense this year with this new coaching staff relative to the last couple?
There are some things similar. This year's coaching staff is more of a spread. Even though in the past they have had some spread in their offense, the majority of their offense is spread now. They do run some power plays and they do run some pro sets and those type of things, but it was a lot more prevalent with the old coaching staff than it is with this coaching staff. This coaching staff's more spread than they are the other.
And defensively, how much different are they on that side of the ball?
Not a lot different. Very similar to what they were. You know, their head coach came from that system, so it's not going to be a whole lot different.
Coach, how important is it going to be for you guys knowing how much they can put out offensively to sort of match that output? Like, is that any part of the game plan going into it?
Well, the game plan going into it is always to score as many points as you can. You know, and the game plan on defense always is to limit them to as few points as you can. And when you play a team that's as good as they are, and right now they're hot, you have to be able to play on both sides of the ball. I mean, if we're having a hard time slowing them down, that means the offense has to score more points. You know, if the offense is struggling scoring, it means we have to hold them down. That's the way we go into every week.
You guys finally got the pass game going last week against Idaho. Do you feel like that momentum could carry over? How much did momentum have to do with it, and how much was it just Quinn and Ezell healthy again and Idaho not being the best defense that you've seen?
I think you said it all right there. I mean, I think that we had our best game throwing and catching the ball. But I don't think Idaho presented near the problems that Boise State does on defense.
Even though you guys did get the passing game going, kind of what Steph was saying, if they could put up a lot of points, you guys probably don't want to get into a scoring duel with them. So how important is it for you guys to get Pumphrey and getting that running game going and maybe controlling the clock a little bit on the run?
I think for our success, we have to run the ball. And I think we've proven that when we can run the ball and control the clock, we have a good chance to win. And when we don't do that, we don't play very well. And as explosive as they are and as easily as they score points, we're going to have to try to keep it away from them.
How different is their quarterback from Fajardo? You said he's a better passer, but a similar runner still?
Similar. He's got good quickness and speed. I don't think he can. He's not quite as fast as Fajardo, and they run not quite the same offense. Nevada has a lot of plays designed for Fajardo to run with it. Boise does not. They have a couple designed for him to run it, but it's not a majority of their offense, and it is at Nevada.
And from a passing standpoint, when we talked the other day, you feel like Hedrick's a better kind of passer?
I don't. No, I don't think he's a better passer. I think he's throwing it better this year. I mean, he's completing statistically. He's completing 78% or almost 78% of his passes. That's as high as I've ever heard of. I think Fajardo was like 64, 65%. So this year he's throwing the ball better.
Coach, any word from Jake Feely, or a specialist, his next specialist?
He was fine.
Yep.
Just a little sore from playing football. So he'll be ready to go.
I'm sure you'll tell me that the weather may have an impact on the game, because that's what you normally say, that the weather and things of this nature have a big effect on football games. But
That's what I normally say.
no, you don't. But, it was cold at Reno, and I thought in the fourth quarter, you guys, I mean, you didn't play very good fourth quarter. They did. I mean, will you take any steps? I mean, cold late at night to make sure that you guys don't kind of freeze out at the end of this football game?
Well, I don't think the weather had anything to do with us playing poorly in the fourth quarter at Nevada. That weather had nothing to do with that. And I don't know what you can do. If you have a plan for how you prepare your team for the cold, I'm willing to listen. I mean, we don't have any place where we can put it at 20 degrees and practice in it. There's nothing we can do about it. Now, the funny thing is that those cold weather teams, the majority of them have indoor practice facilities, and when it's cold outside, they go inside to practice. So they have the advantage of walking around in the cold, but they don't practice in the cold. Wyoming's got an indoor practice facility, so does Boise. I'll promise you, if it's cold today, they're practicing inside. I'll promise you that. So other than they maybe are a little more used to it because they walk around in it during the day, at Wyoming, you could even go in tunnels and stay out of the cold weather by classroom to classroom. You can go underground. I don't think they have a huge advantage. They have a little advantage because they live in it, but it doesn't make a difference in the football game. I bet you their indoor practice field, where is it outside right now, 75, 72? That's probably what their indoor practice field is too, about 75.
Did you guys have a full practice today?
Yes.
Like you would have on a...
Yeah, we had a normal Tuesday practice. We just got to go early because of no school.
Yeah.
Coach Alex Barrett going to be back?
Yeah, he practiced all day today. In fact, I'm trying to think. We only had one guy that didn't practice today, Marcus Stamps. He has migraine headaches, and I guess he has a history of migraine headaches, so he didn't practice today. Everybody else practiced.
Very few teams have beaten Boise State twice in a row. You guys have. Anything in particular that you've done the last two meetings against them that you're going to be focused on trying to make sure you do again?
Yeah, we ended up with more points than they did, but
You're always so helpful.
yeah, I know. But there are similarities because the new head coach came from the same system. And what they do on offense and defense is similar, but not exactly the same. And what Steph was bringing up earlier, it's turned into a game where both offenses have played well and both defenses have played well in those games. Theirs too. I mean, they've been highly competitive games. They've been right up to the end. And both offenses moved the ball well enough to score 28, 30 points. And both defenses made enough plays to have something to do with the outcome of the game. I mean, they've intercepted passes. We've intercepted passes. They've stopped us. We've stopped them. We've had touchdown drives. And I hope it's that kind of game again. Now, as fast as they're moving the ball and as fast as they're scoring points, I hope it's close like it has been the last 2 years.
It's important to, I mean, there's no question that that program has created something a little special, a little bit of mystique to the Boise State program. So important that you guys have, I mean, these players on this team know that you guys can beat Boise. It's not this, oh my gosh, even on the blue turf and all of that stuff.
Yeah, I think that maybe was that way 3-4 years ago. That's not that way anymore. I mean, that's why it should be a good game. If it's not a good game and they run away with it, it has nothing to do with the blue turf because we've had success on the blue turf. It has nothing to do with any mystique they might have. because it hasn't affected us in the past. So it's obviously not going to affect us now. That doesn't mean they might not run away with it, though. They're pretty good. We're going to have to play really, really well to stay in the game.
Coach, do you feel like your offensive success the last game has any sort of carryover in terms of like the players' confidence levels? Quinn,
Oh, I
receivers?
think it would give confidence to our receivers and Quinn. I thought that's the best Quinn's thrown the ball since he got hurt. And I thought that more receivers showed that they could make plays. And that's always a confidence factor. That always gives you confidence.
Did Quinn do well with his protections and everything this game?
Yeah, in fact, we didn't have any mistakes, mental errors. Now, Boise presents a little bigger problem. They do more things on defense. They disguise a little bit better. They put pressure on differently, or more, not differently, they put more types of pressure. So it's going to be much more difficult to read it and get the proper protections and that sort of thing.
Yeah. Are you seeing better route running from the receivers?
I thought they ran their routes really well against Idaho.
And that's kind of a separate factor from what the talent is on the other side of the ball, right? I mean, they need to run their routes well, no matter who's on the other side of the ball.
They do. They do. The difference is that the guys they ran them against last week didn't have the kind of quickness and speed to catch up while the ball was in the air. And these guys this week do. So they have to be able to run the routes correctly and be able to separate from the defensive backs.
Rocky, Brian Harsin said yesterday on the phone that he doesn't believe in power conferences, he believes in power teams. What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, we're all into this Power Five or Big Five or whatever it is. How long ago did we start calling them that? A year ago?
Last
Maybe maybe not even a year ago.
Right.
Right? So it's not like
basically during the media days is when we
yeah.
started
So it's not like there's been a Power Five for the history of college football, and I don't think one coach in America made that up. I think the media is the one that started calling them Power Fives, or maybe themselves. Maybe those leagues started calling themselves Power Five. Okay, so I don't think there's any difference now than there was before everybody started calling them Power Five. Those leagues have more money, which means they have better facilities, which means they have fancier uniforms, which means they have an advantage in recruiting. Those advantages were there before they were called the Power Five, right? In our league, Boise has all the advantages. They make more money. They got fancier uniforms. When they came back into the league, they were given a different contract than the rest of us were, as is Texas in the Big 12. Texas has their own TV network and all those sort of things. Well, Boise makes more money than we do on the TV contract than everybody else in the league. They make more money. So they have advantages. But everybody in all those leagues, I bet you Oklahoma and Texas have more money and better facilities and all that than Iowa State does. And they're in the same league. So there's no difference, other than that some schools have an advantage because of finances, because of resources. It doesn't matter if they're in a quote Power Five conference or not. Every league, certain teams have advantages. Anybody want to give us the kind of money Texas has, then guess what? We'll be a power team too in a couple years.
Do you, against Boise specifically, when you guys walk into a kid's living room, eventually both schools visiting, do you think that you're at very much of a disadvantage in that kid's living room?
I think it totally depends on the kid's personality. Totally depends on the kid's personality.
The likelihood.
What's important to them, in other words?
Yeah. I mean, some kids are into uniforms. And some kids are into going to the best academic institution. And some kids are into going where they can play the earliest. And some kids are into a coach promising them certain things where other coaches tell the truth. I mean, it's all depending on the family and the kid's personality, on which school he leans to or wants to.
What do you think your student athletes are most there? Are they the kind of guys that like the coaches being honest, the early playing time?
There's no doubt that the kids we get here know what they're getting into. Oh yeah, some kids like it where they don't force them to work hard in the weight room. Some kids like it where they don't practice very hard. I mean, it's and those kids find out because they talk to the players in your program, so they find out the truth of your program. And there are some out there that might give a little something more than everybody else can. I mean, there might be some of those guys out there. I'm not pointing any fingers, but I've been around a long time, and I know that happens sometimes.
Are you guys any different, because we haven't asked you this in a while, on your training table side and all that, are you guys offering anything more this year than last year?
We are.
And what is that?
We're feeding our players 3 meals a week that neither comes out of their scholarship fund and the walk-ons get to eat too. There's no doubt that our athletic department, our AD, and our president and the school is going to do whatever they financially can to help us compete with the people we play against. I'm a realist, though. There are some things that are impossible for us to do financially that a lot of the schools that we play against are doing. That's the reality of the situation. But our administration and this campus is going to do everything they can to help us do some of the things the rest of them are doing. That's a good deal. I mean, do you get 3 free meals a week? I don't.
No, just one.
You get one when you come to the press conference, yeah. And it's pizza.
And if you guys
pizza, right?
If you guys have a home game, I get a hot dog.
There you go. There you go. No, no, that. I mean, that's all we could afford to do this season, and I appreciate them stepping up and trying to do that.
Yeah. Is it up from 1 from previous years?
No,
One?
we used to feed them 3 meals a week, but the walk-on kids had to pay for it. If they wanted to eat it, they had to pay for it. And our scholarship kids, it was taken out of their checks.
And so just to clarify, this year it's not taken out of their checks.
It's not taken out of their check, and the walk-ons don't pay for it.
They must appreciate that, the walk-ons.
I think all of them appreciate that.
Yeah.
And we had a long discussion in training camp on the differences between us and other people and how lucky our kids have it anyway. If you take the value of a scholarship and put it in dollars and cents, any kid that complains about that is unrealistic about the way the world is. And so what if Alabama gets $10,000 more than you do a year? You still have it pretty darn good. And there's a bunch of coaches in this country don't win as many games as we do here, and they get paid a hell of a lot more than I get paid. That's just the way the world works.
I remember one team saying in media, around media days, that they were increasing the meals, and they actually pegged it to, they thought the kids were tired or undernourished. I mean, this is true, and you probably saw it yourself, that they were undernourished by the end of the season. Have you ever felt like your kids were at a disadvantage because they weren't as nourished?
I think, now let's be realistic about that. I think several of the athletes in this department are probably undernourished as the year goes along, as is 90% of the college students on this campus because they eat so poorly. It has nothing to do with finances. Our kids that live in the dorms, they can eat 3 meals a day in the cafeteria and be well nourished, but they don't like to eat there, so sometimes they don't. And they go spend $3 at Taco Bell and get full at Taco Bell. I mean, every college student is like that. They are like that. So I mean, that's a good reason for a coach. That's a good. I'm going to use that argument next time when I ask for 5 meals instead of 3. You know, at the end of the season, our kids were really undernourished. How many athletes have you seen walking around that look like they're hungry? I mean, that stuff is ridiculous. I mean, we don't have one athlete walking around here that looks like, you know, like some of the pictures I see on TV of people that are really hungry. Come on, let's be honest.
You want them hungry on game day, though.
I like them hungry for victories, yes.
I just noticed in this year, last thing, you guys haven't had any onside kicks this year, no 2-point conversion attempts. We've gone for it on 4th down 6 times, I'm reading out of the stats.
How many did we go for it last year? About 20?
About 30.
About 30,
and
yeah.
there was
Yeah.
reasons, we understand that. But the onside kicks, the 2-point conversion, that was something that you really brought to the table 2 or 3 years ago with this team. I mean, you really took a lot of risks in that regard. What does it say about your team that you haven't taken as many risks or haven't had to take as many risks now?
Onside kicks, we haven't had to. The situation in the game hasn't dictated to take a chance for an onside kick. The 2-point conversion is we have a lot more confidence in our kicker. You know, and there are times at the end of the game or near the end of the game that you ought to go for 2. And I'm surprised I didn't get called on it because we messed up in the Fresno game.
Oh, yeah.
We scored near the end of the game, and we didn't go for 2, and we certainly should have. Now that it's 5 or 6 games ago, I can bring it up myself.
But is the gambling Rocky still in there if need be?
Yeah, if the situation calls for it, sure.